Hello again, Audubon. Just a few minutes from my last letters video here. This is for you, Mr. Engling, my nemesis through school. As it is, I probably knew Mr. Engling better than any student at Audubon High School in the years that he was there, unless somebody passed me up. You see, my 9th grade year there, 62, 63, was a horror both for myself and for the teachers. When I left school, when Calvin escorted me out, they made a joke that they were going to take the chair in the principal's office and bronze it and put it in the display case in the school. You see, I was thrown out of about 65 classes, suspended once for a week, suspended another time for 2 weeks. 4 days before the end of the school year, Benji Weil, who I never got along with, told me to do something. I told him to go screw himself. And he kicked me out of class again, but I didn't even bother going to the principal's office. I went home. I already knew I wasn't coming back. I was heading for Vokey. I'd already made up my mind to go in the Air Force. I was 16 years old, full of rage, full of hurt, full of lots of things, maybe full of myself, which I still am. I still get in trouble for the same things that I always did. But as much as I was troubled then, I learned my lessons and I went on with my life, and I actually did things and accomplished them the same way that Mr. Engling did. And I can prove it. Here's a letter he wrote me January 2nd, 1964. This is actually the day I completed basic training and was heading for Biloxi, Mississippi. He's also a veteran and also did things much as I did. Now, did these words stick in my mind all those years? Probably did, because I was inspired as a young person by the troops I was stationed with. They were all older guys. By the officers' wives who ran the education office, which I did partake in. By the time my graduating class, 1966, which I would not have graduated with still, were sophomores, I already had my GED out of the way, which shows you the kind of education I got just up through the 8th grade, which is the last grade I finished. But Mr. Engling, Mrs. Pierce, now Mrs. Hull, I guess I just had to do the things my own way, which I always have. Plus, I was running away, I know that. And I also want you all to know, and yous who are now in the hereafter, I take full responsibility for my actions back in them days. For my classmates, I apologize for disrupting your class so many times, although you probably all got a kick out of it, those who remember me. There goes Gus again, down to the principal's office. Oh, one day, the one thing that always has really upset me was the day that Mr. Engling made me sit. There was a little, maybe 6 foot by 6 foot entranceway into the offices there back in those days, and he made me sit there all day, all school day, on a metal chair in that room, and all I did was stew all day. Didn't do any good, but all I did was stew all day. But I'm gonna, before I read this letter to you, I'm gonna leave you with some words he used to me over the years that maybe you future teachers can use out there. He said one day he was in a board meeting, and he says, you know something? He says, we made great mistakes over the years. We paid too much attention to the A students and the jocks and all the prima donnas. We ignored the C students, who were the ones that were going to stay in Audubon and help run it. And he says, guys like Gus Churchill, we threw away. And so things have changed a lot over the years. There's a lot of good psychology things going on now and help for students like me. But for you bad students out there, you can still make it. You can still make something of yourselves no matter what. But you have to have what I had. You have to have the inner drive to still want to make something of your life. You've got to take responsibility for yourself, and you've got to listen to other people. And you've got to just make it one day at a time. From the startings of an airman basic in Biloxi, Mississippi, to 8 years in the Air Force, making a total of $13,000 a year, to becoming a millionaire, all on just working. But anyhow, here's a letter from Mr. Engling, written to me on January 2nd, 1964. I was real pleased with the card and message you sent to the faculty. As you look at 1964, you can see I make mistakes too. Gus, I hope you are finding military life good for you and that you make the most of all the opportunities it offers. And I did. I had a good time while I was in the Navy, and most of my life has been directly attributed to it, and mine was too. I went to every school I could, took all the courses offered, and still had time for fun. I never thought of going to college until after getting out of the service and working for a year. Try to get that diploma and maybe you can keep going to school, which I did. Everything in Audubon is fine. Kids still behaving the same. Snow all over the place and school just starting today, so you can imagine the confusion. Gus, give it everything you have, and if I can help in any way, let me know. Sincerely, Calvin E. Engling. Yes, Mr. Engling, you made a difference. You made a difference, and you probably made a difference in tons of other lives. And perhaps that's partially your legacy. For all you teachers, when I used to do junior achievement, the people that ran it said, Gus, you won't get any thanks now, but perhaps 20 years from now, your ears will be ringing with the children remembering something you told them. I'm at 7:37 now. I'm going to do the one last letter here and then close it out. Dear Gus, February 22nd, 1964. It seems I get busier each week and have a awful time keeping up with my letters. I am glad to hear you are studying hard and making a real good effort. You may not think you can do it, but I know you can. I went to radar school when I was in the Navy, and so did I. I went to radar school. So I know what you were going through. I used to watch the scope until I felt my eyes would fall out. Me too. I am glad to hear you're going to Europe. The choir will be going to 6 European countries this summer, and we may see you over there. Now be careful, and all those foreign girls, love her, and don't get yourself married. When I was in the service, I spent most of my time in Asia, and we never got a chance to see very much. They used to let us out in a big field with a barbed wire fence and 35 Marines with machine guns watching to make sure we didn't jump the fence to get friendly with the natives. School's about the same, quieter since you left. We had to close 2 days because of snow and break all the kids' hearts. Last night the basketball team won its 16th straight game and without a loss in the conference. We also had a variety show last Saturday, and Bill Judd, Kenny Ryder, Scott Sanders, Gary Craney, and Greg Daniels put on wigs and imitated the Beatles. They were much better than the real Beatles. You should have heard the audience. They went wild. Mrs. Pierce was pleased to have you remember her. I guess you just like blondes, since I married one. Best wishes, Calvin Engling. I'm out of time, so I'll close now. Goodbye, all. This is Gus from Morty.